Hi lovelies, Solly and welcome to my channel. My name's Prim, and if you're not familiar with things around here, then I love to talk about beauty, makeup, hair, a little bit about lifestyle, a mix of vlogs and things I like to do, as well as my journey in motherhood. So in today's video, I'm actually specifically focusing on home ownership and the options that are available to first-time buyers in the UK, especially if you feel like you're struggling to attain the deposit amount that's required on the open market. Then these are government-backed schemes that are available to you, and I'm going to chat you through the differences of two schemes, which is the shared ownership scheme as well as the help to buy equity loan scheme. So one of the key differences with the schemes is the amount of the property that you own. With shared ownership, as it says in the title, it's a share of the actual property. So on average they start at 25%, with the other 75% of the property being owned by the developer or the housing association most of the time, because they hand over to a housing association. So for example, you would pay 25% of the mortgage, which is valued at what market value would be for the full property, and then the 75% is what would be the monthly portion of the rent. So your 25% is your mortgage amount, 75% would be the rent element, and within that you still have service charge elements for wherever you're living, just to accommodate taking care of the grounds and things like that. However, with the help to buy equity loan, the government would have given you a substantial chunk, 20% to go towards your deposit, and you own the property fully, and you would pay your monthly mortgage payments just like anyone else. However, the caveat is after a 5-year period, that loan, that 20% that the government have given you, you have to start paying that back. You've got the option of paying it back in instalments, or actually taking out your equity after the 5-year period and paying that chunk off and potentially moving on from the property that you use as a step up into the market. Okay, so the second thing is about the difference in the homes that are available. With shared ownership, the homes are available through purpose built. So if there's a new build, there'll be an allocation for shared ownership, or alternatively there's always resales for different shared ownership properties. Now just a quick caveat, I've got my little one in his room playing, so you will hear him singing. And then when we go on to the help to buy properties, those are also actually available to specific new build homes. So with this, you have to actually be the first person into the property, whereas with the shared ownership you have the option of either being the very first person or purchasing one that has already been around for a little while, and you can kind of purchase at a different point. So depending on affordability and the checks, you could either purchase some where it's already at 50% ownership, 60% ownership, and different things like that. So next, it's the difference in deposits. So on average for shared ownership, the deposits are normally 5 to 10% of the chunk that you're buying. So if you're buying 25% of that property, then you need to actually have 5 to 10% of that. So it's not actually valued at the full market value of that property, if you understand what I mean. So for example, if a property is worth £200,000 on the market and you're only buying 20% of that property, what you're actually having to then pay a deposit towards is £20,000. Now that's just not a true figure or a true reflection of what they actually cost at the moment, but it would mean that, for example, your deposit would either be £2,000 to £4,000, if you get what I mean. So on the alternative, with the help to buy properties, you actually have to have a 5% deposit of that overall price. So again, if you're buying something for £200,000, you need to have at least £10,000 to put into that property. Okay, so in terms of repayments that you make, for shared ownership, you're actually just going to pay what you own for the property. So your mortgage amount, let's say if you own that 25%, that's what you're paying. However, with the help to buy, it is a little bit different. You would already be paying your mortgage anyway, and then you have a monthly sort of maintenance fee to keep your account going of £1 that comes out as a direct debit. And then after 5 years, they start charging interest on the amount that the government have loaned you if you choose not to pay it back in bulk. So I think that rate is about 1.75% that they'll be charging that at. And then after that, obviously, they start applying interest to the amount that you've borrowed and then you have to kind of pay that on top of what you'd already be paying in terms of mortgage, service charges and bills. Okay, so stamp duty. Now stamp duty is a little bit of a funny one at the moment. While we've been going through the pandemic, there have been some changes and there has been some leniency in a way to encourage the market to keep going. There was no stamp duty, but I think that may have changed as we're now in March. So for shared ownership properties, they actually don't have a stamp duty as long as you're purchasing a property that's under £300,000. However, with the Help to Buy scheme, they normally do have a stamp duty that applies. If you're purchasing in this period while we've been in a pandemic, you'll find that lots of developers were actually incentivizing first-time buyers by deducting what would have already been the stamp duty fee, which is what happened for us. We actually had that deducted off our final purchase price just as an additional incentive to kind of buy. So for us it was close to £3,000 that we would have had to pay if we were purchasing in the normal circumstances, but with everything that's going on with coronavirus, obviously there were some pauses. However, as I'm filming this, I think there have been some changes to what's going to be happening with stamp duty, and things are always constantly in review, so it's likely to change. Okay, and finally, how you can sell these properties on and the differences. So for shared ownership, you can pretty much sell the property anytime you want. Depending on the housing association that you're with, they might be able to offer some assistance, and they normally do. They give you like a period where you can advertise it and things like that in different places, but they normally use portals or websites that are actually geared for shared ownership anyway, and they present it as resales, and they support you through doing the viewings and everything else, and all the checks for the prospective buyer to make sure that their affordability is within the right range for the shared ownership properties. Now the value and things like that will change, and so you would have to go through the valuation process, and you're now selling at whatever market value the property is deemed to be. Here comes trouble. And with the Help to Buy, you actually have to pay the equity loan before you fully sell your property, and similar to shared ownership, a valuation process would have to go through to determine what the property is worth at that point if you're selling, just so that you've got all your numbers right. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this helpful, especially if you're in the process of saving for a property. It's such an exciting period, but there's so many decisions to make, and it's not just about making the decision based on what you have at the moment, but looking to the future and thinking about where you want to be and what you might potentially have, and what each type of mortgage ties you down to. It's really, really important to look beyond and down the line. I hope you guys found this video useful, and if you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. I'd love for you to subscribe as well, join the family and see more of the content that's coming up. Until the next video guys, take care. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.